Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Zenitsu, and you're listening to the Digi Talks podcast, the show that covers various topics from news to meta developments and everything in between for the fine folks who love the Digimon trading card game. Just as a quick reminder, I do try to stream this live over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, usually around Tuesday nights, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. But if you ever miss the live show, you could always catch us on YouTube under the YouTube channel of Zenitsu, on top of being on various podcasting platforms like Spotify for your viewing and listening pleasure. So it would mean the absolute world to us to please support the channel by leaving at least that rating, like, follow, subscribe, whatever, depending on the social media platform that you're listening on. Today I am back with Jay Stewart, and well, it's a bit of a not really slow news week. I mean, news-wise, it is kind of slow, but we just got BT21 released officially. So everyone's rushing to get their cards. Everyone's trying to figure out the meta and all that stuff. So there's a lot of excitement around that. But there is a little bit of interesting discourse between, like, the game and how accessible it is, in a sense. So me and Jay Stewart were thinking maybe we could discuss, like, a good idea for new products to be able to ease people into Digimon, cut some of the prices of the singles down a little bit, and just make your overall journey and experience potentially a little bit better. Obviously, Bandai's not going to be doing that because, what's a consumer without ideas, right? And God forbid Bandai should ever listen to their consumer base. But before
or just
all
pick up
that,
the opportunity to get just to make more money.
more money is always a bad thing, right? Always. But jokes aside, yeah, I think there could be a better way Bandai could be handling certain aspects of the game. But before we get into that, we do have a micro topic on top of the question of the week. The micro topic is going to be on the release event because me and Jay Stewart both attended ours, so we'd be just yapping about our experience. And the question of the week from last week's episode, which pertained about deck building. We have Green Hill Mario asking the question on how bad are discords about people asking about just, hey, can I just have a deck? So we already know that depending on the social media platform, it could be borderline non-existent to nobody actually knows what they're doing and everyone just wants to be lazy. So we didn't exactly mention discords on how they have been handling it. And I know from personal experience, like, it really just depends on the discord. So I know certain discords are, like, the more generic the Discord, the easier it is to find that type of a question, but the more specialized the Discord, the less that's going to happen. That's kind of like the way I kind of have seen it, because, like, I know there's specific colored Discords where it's just like, I am a blue Digimon player, I only play blue Digimon decks, let's theorycraft and build blue Digimon decks, and then usually that information is pretty easily available because that's just the support network that the whole Discord is literally built upon. I know there was, like, a black players Discord where it's just nothing but black decks. One of my teammates was a part of that. A couple of my teammates, I think, were a part of that because black is a really fun color to build around, but it hasn't usually competitively done that well. But
When it does, most of the time.
Yeah, when it does, it kind of just works. Because it's pretty strong. But what's your, like, experience on Discord and people's deck building abilities and asking if they have a build that they're willing to edit, or if they are just asking for a build because they don't know how to build at all.
So, I don't really necessarily interact too crazy amount in like a bunch of other people's discords and everything, but I will say from when I am glancing over and everything, just because if I want to just maybe see like, hey, what are some people's thoughts process, what's their ideas and everything. Most of the time when I go on Discord, people are posting like their actual deck builds and everything. Like literally, if I go on your Discord, I can literally see there's a few people on here that have already posted deck builds of Galactic deck. There's what appears to be a Mastimon deck and everything. So, and like they're explaining like, hey, here's the choices I picked. And then even one person like who posted a Medusamon deck, he says, I'm debating about taking the promo Agumon out at 1 so I could put in an EX1 Agumon. Like, he's explaining, like, hey, this is what I'm even just debating about, too. Like that person right there, he's literally put some thought into the deck and is trying to at least get some creative feedback about it back and everything. And I know typically in my Discord group in the Kansas City area, like we could post our deck builds and I could do the same thing. Like I could explain, hey, this is what my deck build is. This is what I'm questioning. Any thoughts on this or something? Because most of the time, like, well, that I've interacted with the Discord when it comes to deck building is most of the time we're trying to help each other be better. So it's not necessarily oh, hey, someone send me your deck list. It's more of, hey, here's my deck list. Can I get some help with this? Is what I've always found on Discord most of the time.
Yeah, it's really a mixed bag when it comes to Discord. Sometimes it's really like constructive. That's what the community I try to raise is all about, is just raw constructive feedback. I'm not always going to be answering everything because I might not actually understand the deck fully yet to be able to actually have a good opinion on it. But I at least leave the space open for the type of discussion to be had. And I feel like, based on last week's episode and kind of like where we got to, that's what I enjoy out of like these deck building questions, because then you're being more proactive and constructive and you're building a conversation rather than being lazy and not doing any research for yourself to help yourself actually learn a valuable and valuable skill going forward if you're actually going to be playing the game. So Discord's a good place. It could be a good tool. You just got to find the right ones based on where you personally feel like you want to be in the game. So that's that. And speaking of deck building, because like part of this relates to the release event. So you and I both participated in a release event, and yeah, I guess now we just get a yep about our experience. So if you want to take the wheel on this one, because I have no idea how well you did or what your experience was.
So for me, I was 5th place. We had 3 rounds. Technically speaking, we could have played a 4th round. However, it was just really late in the night, and everyone, including even myself, we were like, yeah, we're just kind of tired. We're ready to go. So I was X1 after 3 rounds, and I got 5th place. When it came to like the cards that I got, like literally I got a decent amount of Link cards, but I didn't get any. I literally didn't get any Link Fusion cards to go with the Link cards, so that kind of sucked. As far as like good pulls that I got a Marcus SR, and I also got a alt art of the Link Tamer, the new guy, whatever. So I got an alt art of him. I also did get a Agumon and Gamamon, plus they're level 6s, so it was like, okay, I'm gonna do somewhat of a hero / crossheart deck. And I did get like 2 Koromon, so it's like it kind of worked in tangent whenever I linked that I could suspend the red guy, the red Link Tamer, to draw another card, and then the Koromon's effect triggers because it's just generic red or yellow Tamer suspend, so I got to draw off again off that again. So it was just kind of became a consistency thing with the deck then. At that point, I believe I also got a War Greymon level 6, so that was also really decent to have. Like, I don't know how good War Greymon in that is outside of pre-release, but during pre-release, having raid, blocker, being able to unsuspend when something's deleted is really powerful. Oh, and it also had piercing too, so.
Yeah, I mean, it gets piercing, I think, if you have the Owen, but yeah, just rush, blocker, raid, like, it's good keyword soup. Very strong card. In the actual builds for Medusamon, because that's mostly where people play it, it's just a I win button with Owen, because you could just hard play it for 11, and then it has rush, and then Owen lets it attack at the end of the turn, and then you could raid, pierce, whatever. So it's just a very easy card for Medusamon to use.
Yeah, I think the big thing though during our entire pre-release was, I think everybody was trying to figure out how exactly the whole link effects work, how the link fusion effect works and everything. And we literally had one player who kind of became the quote-unquote link judge, and we kept asking him every single different question, like, hey, is this considered an inheritable, or is this a link effect kind of thing, ruling situation? Because I'm trying to think, like Calendarmon, for example, it was like, I think Calendarmon has the effect where it's like all security Digimon get minus 2k or something. So
so as long as that's
hey,
linked, you get access at that ability.
Yeah, and you know, we kind of made the joke. It's like, oh, I bet since you're so good at the rulings of the link cards now, you're gonna want to play links. And he's like, absolutely not. No. He kind of officially hates links now because of us.
I don't find links, and I didn't find links to be that annoying. I was like pseudo link judge because I do obviously the pre-release videos. I don't think I covered links at all, but links kind of just followed the same rules as like, oh, you need to, like, because it's mostly name-based synergies, and like apps for the most part is basically colorless when it comes to how they just generally work. It kind of just, I felt like, made sense, where it's just like, if you're trying to link, you could just link with any, as long as it's an Atmon. If you digivolve from an Atmon to something else, the link falls off, or vice versa. If you're de-digivolved from a Atmon to a normal Digimon, your link falls off. And then, like, just some of the other basic ones with link fuse, you still have to abide by the names, so nothing really changed there. It's just there was a lot of apps in the set, and like between apps and heroes, that's kind of like the two big synergies I noticed a lot of people leaning towards. I probably should have played my deck a little bit more aggressively, but the only losses I had were to War Greymon. Like, every time my opponent had War Greymon, I lost the game. So that sucked. But this was the first pre-release I actually didn't get first place in. So it's been a while since I didn't get first place. Not trying to, like, humble brag, but usually pre-release is, like, the thing I'm, like, usually really oddly good at. But most of the time, it's weird. I don't know if you have this experience, but when I pull, like, garbage, I build some of the best decks. But when I actually pull well, I build, like, mediocre decks. Because as far as cards that I pulled, what were some of the ones that I pulled? Here we go. I pulled 2 Takuyas, 1 alt art, 1 base. I pulled 1 Taiki, 1 Medusa, and a Globe. And then my pre-release cards were Vmon and Flamedramon. So I felt like that was pretty cool. I already sold the Vmon. But yeah, so I just built a little bit lower to the ground, a more aggressive style deck. I think I played every single security Digimon I had because there's no reason not to play them, because the chances of getting them out of security to potentially just steal games is pretty decent. And then I think, like, my only other Mega that I was playing was Griffinmon. And then outside of that, I was just, like, level 5 is my aggro point. Like, I stopped Digivolving at level 5. Most of the time I stopped digivolving at level 4 because I had a couple of armors. So I was just trying to be aggressive, and that completely... I think if my aggressive plan was a little bit better, I could have done better. Because I had zero ways to really out a War Greymon, because half the time they just tempo into him and then just start picking up out my field, and then I lose the game from there. I literally just can't play the game because he just raids into my Digimon, kills it, and then if he doesn't raid, he could just leave the War Greymon up as a blocker. So I'm just like, cool. This card for pre-release is absolutely cracked. I wish I pulled him.
Yeah, I kind of have like, I wouldn't say it's like similar experience, but a lot of the times, most of the time during pre-releases, I actually just don't end up getting anything good for the actual pre-release tournament. I sometimes get really good cards, like for example, when 2.5 came out, I pulled an Alt-Art Alphamon or Yukon Ace, so it was like, you know, it's like that's a good pull for me, especially since I like Alphamon and everything. So it was like, you know, it was a good pull. Just unfortunately, I didn't do well in that pre-release. Like,
Yeah.
I always get good cards that most of the time I'm looking for, but this one, it was just kind of a mix of both not getting anything good and also not doing well in pre-release.
I
mean,
also think I baited myself.
Potentially.
Yeah, I also think I baited myself with the Takuyas. I think for pre-release, that card was probably unplayable. And I had a little bit of hero synergy to make it kind of work, but I think it was just not enough to reasonably want it to actually be in the deck.
Yeah, because like, because when it came to like the whole Marcus Agumon and Shine Greymon, like I even got the Geo Greymon that could help me play out the Marcus and everything. But I didn't have like a Rise Greymon in either the packs or the pre-release, so I was like, oh, this kind of feels bad if I ever wanted to try to do the whole swinging thing with Marcus typically does.
Yeah, like I had a little bit of like Reptile Dragonkin synergy, and the only other Mega I think I had was Megidramon, but Megidramon was just way too slow because he's expecting you to Digivolve from your 5 mid-attack. And I only had one copy of the 5, and I'm just like, this is not happening very often, if at all. So, yeah. I think, like, part of it was I built with a couple of bait cards, and I think that's what really screwed me, but I should have recognized that sooner than I did outside of the tournament. Because I realized looking back at it, I'm like, oh, this probably just didn't work out the way I thought it was. I saw this a little bit too much. I probably could have, if I was going more aggressive, up my rookie count a little bit. So there were just some like small things that I could have improved on. But that's what building decks allows you to do, is have that skill to transfer that to pre-release so you could do good in that type of environment, on top of like actually figuring out how to utilize your cards in new and exciting ways to unlock more potential out of what your card is capable of. And if you're just asking for decks online, like kind of bringing it back to the question of the week, if you're just asking for decks online, you're never going to develop that skill, and you're going to suck at pre-release as a result. That's just the nature of the beast. My brother has a hard time deck building. I build all of his decks for him, partially because I do it on YouTube, and the other thing is he picks really easy decks to build, so he doesn't have to think that critically about what's going to be included into his deck. Not saying he's like a bad player. It's just he knows how to make his life a little bit easier, is kind of like what I'm saying. He's using his resources efficiently. Speaking of BT21, we are officially in the BT21 meta environment. And I do have a tiny bit of like preliminary data to look at. Not anything like super huge. But like I found on Twitter, basically the person that East uses to grab all of that data, and then East uses probably the same exact data set and just labels his tiers a little bit differently. So it's structured as like a tier list. I find this to be incredibly useless. And I even posted it on Facebook, and people kind of also alluded to this is incredibly useless, because it really doesn't tell us much of anything outside of what people are playing. And based on like the little tier list that they have, people are playing a lot of different things. So it's like, cool. People are playing decks. People are playing Digimon. Obviously, it shows like at the very top at 7+ wins, you have Royal Knights winning. So that's showing that more people are playing Royal Knights and doing well with Royal Knights versus something like Sakuyamon, where it has like, this is by a week basis, 6 to 7 wins. Again, these are local tops. So it's just like Sakuyamon topped 6 locals. Wow, what riveting data set that is. And then 7+, that again doesn't really tell us anything. Like, it's more than 7. So what is the actual number? We don't know. Then like in the 4 to 5 wins, they have like Venmon, Davis, Vortex, Examon, Galaxy Loop. And I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, how? Okay. Some of these make sense. Some of these kind of just don't. And then like you get to like some of the lower tiers where it's just like, what is Vikemon representing? What's Sylphimon representing? Yeah. Like, these aren't real decks that people are actually thinking of or aware of, or like, it's not telling us anything.
Yeah, because even the other thing too is, I think that Penguinmon, is that supposed to be an Ice Clad deck or something?
Yeah, that's supposed to be Ice Snow. So like Penguinmon is supposed to represent Ice Snow. Singularity Chaos, I think that's supposed to be Excel. I don't know. I was trying to peruse the Twitter to see if I could find some of the deck lists, because usually this type of data ends up going on to CG Guide, where they search and filter out by a specific hashtag. Don't know what that is. But yeah, like, all this tells us is Sakuyamon and Royal Knights are probably the 2 best decks as of right now, most likely taking advantage of people actually trying to explore and play with new stuff. And obviously, the new stuff is not keeping up with those 2 decks specifically, based on this Japanese data set that's incredibly small, mind you. So it's not even like it's conclusive data. It's just the teeniest tiny of data, because it's a week's worth of locals that submitted. Because again, if you didn't submit, you're not part of this data set. So I don't know. This is a perfect example on like where it looks like it's helpful, but it's actually not. Because the other big thing that I keep getting questioned on in that Facebook post is, can I have the deck list? And I'm like, well, I tried to find some of them. I couldn't find all of them. I couldn't find most of them, actually. So, I don't know. But yeah, so if you're looking for like more in-depth, East will most likely cover this exact same thing, ripped right from Twitter, as I've stated before. So he'll have his whole little insight, and this is just to highlight how useless this is. But it's something, so I guess take it for what you will.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you at least an idea of what people are most leaning to theory crafting and everything, but we don't know what the theory craft is. We don't know what in the decks. I mean, yes, Royal Knights is topping, but it's like, well, what are they using the top with? Are they going more Ace line? Are they doing more BT13?
Like, between Royal Knights and Sakuya, those 2 decks are pretty much solved. It's like, so what does Davis/Vmon armor look like? Is it heavier on Magnamon, or is it like more of a purist armor rush using mostly level 4s? We don't know. Then, like, obviously the Sylphie and the Vikemon, again, don't know what those look like in terms of like what those decks are actually doing. but it's not
Yeah, it would just
necessarily
be
the
helpful.
yeah, it's not necessarily the representation of, like, they're supposed to represent a deck idea that people are playing with. Um and I get it, like, it's just a Sylphie DNA engine into whatever. Um I could probably theory craft a build around that idea based on some of the all the different tech that we've gotten, because obviously the main card is Sylphimon, so it's like, cool, DNA Sylphie tech, whatever. But it's more of just the fact that it's showing that people are experimenting and the new stuff is not keeping up with some of the older stuff. Some of the new stuff is, but again, it's also different play rates. So it's just like, okay, if you have, let's just say, 500 people playing Vortex, obviously somebody of those 500 people are going to do well with Vortex. So it's showing just more of what they're playing with rather than an actual indication of true strength when it comes to how they're going to perform overall in the meta. So it's just the concept of experimentation is what this actually represents, and it's not indicative of a deck's power outside of the top two, which I would probably say, yes, those are definitely the top two decks of this format.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is a lot of the newer decks are kind of more towards the bottom and everything, but I don't know if that's just because of the idea that, this is a brand new set. It literally just came out like barely a week ago. So is it just that maybe those newer decks aren't as popular right now because maybe people haven't gotten their hands on the cards and everything? It's just like all different constituencies and or are people just going, oh, I don't really like this set, so let me just keep playing something old? Like, it's just like that mentality.
Well, there's a lot of different factors, because something that I'm noticing is, especially with this set more specifically, is I'm personally starting to get priced out of the game, and that's partially like leaning into the greater topic. Is like Bandai has done absolutely nothing to increase the accessibility of the game, and in fact, like, they're gatewalling people more and more. So, like, the really weird thing, just taking Adventures as an example. Adventures came in 2 starter decks. It's a really strong starter deck, but those decks have so much depth to them between the different tools that you have access to, that it's actually not something I would recommend for newer players, because it's a more complicated deck not only to build but to play, with all of the intricate combos that it's trying to line up. And then to top that off, Bandai again did the disingenuous thing on putting one of their key cards, or a very powerful card that helps the deck, as a secret rare. So it's just like, to build this deck, you need to buy 4 copies of, let's just say, if you're a casual player, like your average player, you need to buy 2 copies of each starter deck, so 4 decks total. So if each deck, let's just say, is $15, that's $60 already just for all of the adventure cards. Then, on top of that, you need 2 to 3 ties, which current market value is around $25. So that's about $50 to $75 extra dollars for the ties. And then I'll probably just throw in the rest of the cards outside of the Promo War Greymon, because the Promo War Greymon is like, what, $12? So I'll just round them down to 10 just to make math easier. So that's going to be another $20 to $40, again, depending on your build. So it's like, it all adds up to where the deck probably is going to cost you like $100 to $120 or $100 to $150 to build. And if you don't know what you're doing, the deck also isn't going to be very good. So, and people are still learning adventures, so there's no optimal build as of right now, because the meta just started and we're just figuring out what this deck can do. So it's just like, just to start the game, Bandai's already asking you to shell out $150, and that's not including you trying to pull your cards out of a booster box. Because if you're trying to do the ultra casual thing and try to pull your cards out of the booster box, now you're looking, let's just say you have a good success rate, and you need 2 ties. Let's just say you pull a tie in each box. That's 2 boxes. So you're already like $250, almost $300 in the hole for this specific deck. And that is literally based off of a starter deck.
Yeah, I will say something else that just seems a little weird to me is the new starter decks, the price of them compared to what starter decks have been before in the past and everything. Because I'm pretty confident I can say this, that the very first 6 starter decks and even the All Force and the Gallimon that were introduced back in BT6, like I'm pretty confident and I feel like I can easily say, like, those used to be like $12 a piece and everything, and you only needed to pick up 2 and everything. But like these new Ace ones, like I literally went to Target and saw them, and they're like $16 a piece now.
That's just this typical market fluctuation where it's just everything across the board has gotten more expensive because the economy around everything is just fucked.
Yeah, and this is even the other weird thing to me though, is like, look, I like the idea that they reprint the promos and everything, but I really did not like that the scramble cards were kind of like just packaged in with those starter decks and everything. It's, to me, like, I didn't need them. I already had the play sets.
No, but that's something I think the starter decks did good, is the accessibility of them, because now you didn't need to buy that one specific product that had them or hunt down the singles. You just buy the starter deck and then boom, you get one of each. And if you're already, and like this, I guess this is the biggest difference between these starter decks and other starter decks in the past, kind of like what you mentioned. The other starter decks you only needed 2 of, because they were isolated and they were their own thing. This set of starter decks, you need to buy 2 of each of them because of how Adventures works as a whole. Sure, you could kind of get away with running just 2 of one of them, but to have access,
the other half to really bring it all around.
To have access at the full package, so to speak, you need the other half. And I think like that's the big, like, it's a cool and neat concept, but it makes the game less accessible overall, especially, again, this starter deck isn't really a starter deck because of the complexity of the builds that it has due to all of its different tools, both inside of both starter decks and in BT21. And that's just one example. Like, Bandai's kind of been a little bit like this for a while. The advanced decks usually needed like a secret rare. I mean, I guess the Beelzemon was pretty user-friendly because it was asking for super rares. But when you get to like the Terriermon starter deck, advanced deck, it asked for a like $40 secret rare in a very hard to get set. Like that's not good when it comes to accessibility. Granted, we're getting a reprint of that card, but again, now if you bought that advanced deck, let's just say now, and you want to play Terriermon and you're waiting for that reprint, 1, the reprint isn't happening for a while, and 2, it's RNG lottery reprint, where you don't know if you are buying this product, you're going to get that reprinted card or not. So, yeah, Bandai's been pretty bad with their reprints lately. Like, they're smart knowing what to reprint. They're just really bad at putting it in places to actually impact players being able to pick up the card to be able to use it. I know, like, we have a slew of promos, absolute slew of promos that are like this. You have basically anything that was like printed in BT14 is pretty not accessible, and forward. So like promo Flame Dramon, promo Shadramon, promo Seadramon, promo Destromon, just to name a few. And in this set, they introduced more of that crap, where it's just like, oh, now you have promo Gallantmon, promo Wargreymon, promo Mastamon, cards that people want and need for their decks that is locked behind a one-of box topper that has a low pull rate to be honest, because it's in competition with some other box toppers, like other cards.
Oh, I will say the what is it? The War Greymon Galamon, although it's actually 2 per pack.
Oh, it's 2?
During the because in the pre-release I was able to get one of those packs, and I pulled a Galamon with a Mastamon, so you technically get 2, so it's a little bit better, but it's not like the other one, because I know the other one that has the LM cards, I'm almost confident to say you get one of each. I don't know, I didn't pull that, so don't quote me on that, but if memory serves, you get one of each.
Yeah, this is the first set I actually didn't buy any boxes of, and I still spent a lot of money. So I just bought a master playset of all of the SRs, promos, LM cards, whatever, just anything SR and above, and then the box toppers and promos, outside of the reprint promos, and that costed me like $500. Normally, that's about how much I spend, maybe a little bit less, on 4 boxes, and then out of those 4 boxes, I still don't get everything that I want or need. So I'm just like, cool. Yeah, in order to actually, like, complete a set of, like, SRs and above to be able to build whatever deck you want, it's still gonna cost you, like, $700 usually, on average. And, again, that's, not including, like, oh, this was a $50 secret rare out of the gate. I kind of regret not buying the cards on day 1, because on day 1 the prices were lower than pre-release prices, so don't think buying pre-release is actually a good deal. Most of the time, especially early on, it's not a good deal. You literally have to buy day 1 in order to get some of the better pricing for some of the more expensive cards, because like some of the cards just rebounded and jumped way up because of the sheer volume of people buying the product, and it kind of shows how little people are actually opening the product, if that makes any sense.
No, it does, because this is also probably one set that I hate to say it. It's like part of me wants to get the box because the box toppers and everything, but at the same time, it's like I just don't feel like I don't know. It's not like 2.5 where it's like getting a box, I could get like a various good amount of cards I want or different decks and everything. Like there's just unfortunately not a lot of decks that seem interesting to me to play, so to say. And the cards that were interested, I literally just already got them.
And that's kind of where it seemed like this Japanese data is looking like, where it's like, I don't need to invest into all of these B tier decks, because that's what the majority of these decks actually are. They're still not hyper competitive, and I think like that's fine. Not everything needs to be hyper power crept, but again, that just shows the disparity between the gap between what constitutes tier 1 or tier 0 and then the rest of the game in terms of meta viability. Granted, we're still experimenting and still exploring, so more is going to be discovered as we get deeper into the format. Granted, we only have a month of this format before EX9 comes out.
Yeah, EX9 comes out January 26th.
Yeah, so we literally have like a month of, like a month and a half of this format before EX9 comes. But usually EX sets, again, are another lower power set. So, like, as a competitive player, I would have rather just invested all my eggs into something like Omnimon or Sakuyamon, because I don't think they're going to get hit at all in the near future when it comes to ban and restrictions. And those are so far the strongest decks, and if these newer decks can't compete with either of those two, then you're not really competitively viable. And that's the unfortunate reality of the situation. And, like, why Atmon, I personally think Gaiamon should have been an under $20 card, but because Bandai did the dirty on requiring you to buy 4 of that card if you are playing apps on top of 4 globes, Like, that's what artificially made them more expensive in the secondary market. And then that just makes it less accessible because more people are buying them up than what's actually being opened. And that's the true disparity on how, like, the secondary market is reacting is we're not opening enough product, or there's not enough single sellers opening enough product to warrant the prices being somewhat reasonable for players. Because if I was playing apps, I'm already going to have to spend $120 just for the secret rares. And then if I'm looking at the super rares, that's an extra, let's just say $20. So I'm looking at $150 to build apps. And it's just like, cool. It's more, oddly enough, more expensive than adventures. Granted, it's easier to build than adventures, but I would also argue it's worse than adventures. So it's just like, it makes it really hard to figure out what's a good deck to invest in. Granted, I think like the big winner in BT21 is Medusa. Granted, Medusamon being like $15-ish means you need to buy 4 copies of her, but everything else in the deck is relatively cheap outside of the promo Flamedramon, which is technically optional. But if you want to build that deck at max capacity, promo Flamedramon's probably one of the best cards in the deck. But I digress. Outside of that, if you were just a casual player looking to build a basic version of Medusamon, that deck is probably going to cost you $60, basically half of what you would need if you were to build a starter deck. Or like one of the new hot decks that has lots of tools and is potentially going to get more tools. So it doesn't make sense. Like, from a value proposition, it just doesn't make sense. And Bandai needs to do a better job at making certain cards accessible so that way we could actually build these decks. And I get it. Money is a thing. Bandai did this on purpose, knowing we have to buy these cards in this type of capacity. So it's incentivizing us to want to open up boxes and buy product or whatever, but any smart person knows that singles is always going to be the cheaper option, and if it's not, then we're going to buy boxes, and usually we're buying boxes because they're cheap.
Yeah, for sure, because looking at the set right now, like, there's some tamers that are a few dollars more, but there's like a lot of SRs that are currently a little bit under $1, so to say. So it's like, when you already have like a 50-50 kind of split on that, like, it kind of makes it feel bad to buy a box and you just so happen to get the bad half of the tamers that aren't worth anything.
Right. Like, from a box perspective, you could get, I mean, it's all RNG anyway. Like, you could make bank and hit everything you want or need, or get all of the expensive cards to then trade or buy whatever you want or need. Or you could get absolutely hosed and get, like, the most min value thing humanly possible out of the box. I've had both situations, and it feels bad, obviously being on the losing end of that spectrum, which is going to happen more than the winning side of that spectrum, which is the unfortunate reality of booster boxes. But this is why it's important for Bandai to reprint cards, because let's just say you're interested in Examon. Well, now you need to go back to EX3 and either A, hunt those boxes down for that secret rare, which has only gone up in price as attention has gotten more and more on the card because of the constant waves of Examon support, or you just have to not play the card and play a far inferior deck because of it. Granted, like, yes, there are budget replacements, but if you're trying to actually build Examon for, let's just say, a competitive event, or like trying to just have a more competent version than like using the bad cards that are not hyper optimal, then the impact is going to be felt. And they need to, like, I think they needed to make that Examon, the EX3 one, more accessible. Well, it would have been nice to have that as a reprint. Did they put that card anywhere as a reprint? No. I don't think that card even got reprinted ever. No, and I think
there was like if I had to take a guess, I think an Examon did get reprinted, but I think it was the one from BT9, and I know somebody said that it's a good budget version of the
That's
card and everything,
BT13
but
Examon. Yeah,
is that not what I said? The BT13
you said
was the
BT9.
one that got reprinted. Okay, yeah, my bad. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, like I know there's like there was like somebody who said on one episode that it's like, oh, the BT13 version is a good budget friendly version. It's like, yeah, but it's not as good as the original.
Right. If you're trying
It's kind
to
of my counterpoint.
play, yeah, if you're trying to play the game at a competent level, you need that card. I guess like going back to Medusumon, it's like, yes, you need Flame Dramon if you're building the highest competitive level version of that deck. But that deck still has plenty of things you could run outside of the Flame Dramon that you could still use because of the toolbox that deck is able to work with. So you could find something that's competent enough to cover the fact that you don't have the promo Flame Dramon, which is getting reprinted, but we're not getting it until October. So anyone who wants to build Medusumon now is going to have to shell out $70 for that promo, which is very bad. Like, I mean, the promo's good, but it's bad for the players because we know the reprint's coming. Bandai could have pushed that product out sooner to make the reprints happen in a more timely manner. And Bandai's always been pretty bad at this. Like, looking back at all of their promo history, there's very few times they ever gave us promos in a timely fashion. Very few times.
Yeah. Plus, the other downside about it is, like, grateful that it's getting reprinted, but it's locked behind Premium Bandai. So, unless you're actively checking Premium Bandai, you could have easily missed out on this promo.
Like, I know people who did.
Yeah, like, I want to say it should still be up for pre-order, but it's like, kind of like the, what is it, that 30th anniversary or that $200 box set and everything, like, if you missed out on it, you kind of missed out on it already. There's no way you're getting that.
I think their last wave of that is still open, but like the interest has dried up because either A, people just gave up and they don't care anymore because they botched the release because they had to do it 3 times and it sold out 3 times, and on the 4th one they finally opened it up, but it's coming later. And again, with the problem with Premium Bandai is we don't know what the meta is going to look like 6 months from now when we're looking at getting those types of products. It's like, is Medusumon plus that promo Flame Dramon really going to be that good all the way out in October when we're like at BT22 or 23? I don't know. You don't know either. So it's a huge gamble and risk. Granted, because it was a highly expensive promo, it's probably a safe investment to get, but we've seen promos go from $50 to nothing. Like, it's not an unheard of thing based on playability. Look at Pulsemon for that.
I mean, you can even look at just bans and restrictions and everything. Like, there could easily be a ban and restriction that comes out that's going to make, like, I don't know, for example, Medieval Gallimon or that Flame Dramon just be worthless after a certain point. But right. I don't know for sure, but you just never know because it's kind of all up in the air with how long it is.
Yeah, and that's like the big problem with Bandai being this slow to reprint important cards. So, like, this brings us to the greater topic of, like, if we were in Bandai's shoes, or if Bandai actually was listening to our feedback, what would we want? And, like, the big answer is probably just a reprint set. Like, we need an RB01 that doesn't have the problems that RB01 did, which was shoving the LM cards in a reprint set and then making the pull rates on literally everything piss awful. So, like, having a dedicated reprint product, I think, is good. It's fine. Bandai's testing the waters with the Bandai Premium set that they did, and then they did this other set in December of last year. But that was like, those were more smaller sets, and the reprints were probably not super desirable because, like, most of it was like reprints of store promos, which are highly accessible, and we didn't need those. We need the reprints of the Yeah, and cheap. We needed the reprints of the box toppers. Like, the box toppers is what we need the reprints of, because those are harder promos to get, even when they decide to do a more friendlier tactic on giving us 2 of them. It's like, no, but the problem is we still need to buy basically a case or a half a case in order to get a playset of some of those. Which, it sucks. I'll flat out say it. That sucks.
Yeah, no, I could easily agree upon that, because I'm trying to think. There was like a one. Well, besides this one, there was like another. Did BT15 have like box stoppers or something? That
Yeah.
just like were kind of.
Yeah,
like
I believe BT15 had box toppers too.
Were they like kind of like sought after box toppers or no? I can't remember. Like,
I don't think they were. I know BT15 had a lot of like issues with it, because that was the main set that they shoved LM cards into when they should have just made a like small box LM set, kind of like what they did back in December. So like Bandai just does things in some really wonky ways that makes like 0 sense. It's like you have this LM set, or like these LM cards, which is essentially a second iteration on a promo. So and they're releasing them like promos, which is awful because they shouldn't be releasing them like promos. They should just release them either. I don't even want them to be like in a reprint set. Like, they should just not make them LM cards. I guess that's the easiest answer. Don't have a secondary promo for us. I think that's just the answer. Is just quit doing LM stuff. It makes no sense.
yeah, because I think this is the thing I kind of like. Maybe to me, this might be what I think is the downfall of RB01. A couple different factors. One, it was a giant like normal set, like a normal booster box. So already you're asking players to like spend $100+ to buy reprints. I think the other thing was, obviously I think everyone could easily agree, the reprints that we got, they weren't meta. Like, we were playing like BT13 and we were getting block 0 cards that I think maybe a single card like the Matashita might have been an important reprint for
Yeah, it was
players,
like
or even
the
Davis,
tie.
but it was like,
Yeah, it was like Davis wasn't in there. It was TK, Ty, and Matt when it came to important tamers, and then when it came to important Digimon, the Lucimon secret rare and was one of the more hot ones. Just because we were anticipating Lucimon support for a while.
yeah,
But yeah, like you said, the reprints weren't very high quality because everything was like borderline not used. And then the LM cards that did come out, or like the RB ones, they weren't LM cards. They were RB cards. Those decks were dead on arrival because they came late. And they were already underpowered when Japan got them.
Yeah, because, so, like, you kind of had, like, that problem. And to me, what, LM, I think, takes the better approach. Like, it's fewer packs in there, and it's, like, a little bit more affordable, plus you're guaranteed, like, a certain amount. Like, I think, what was it? The LM, hold on, I got the box
Yeah, it was
here.
like the special limited box.
Yeah, it's called Special Limited Set. And, it's like, it had 6 packs each, 9 cards in each pack, and you were guaranteed to get 2 of each promo, practically, that you would need and everything. So, like, that's a little bit better of incentive, but the problem in this one, when it comes to the reprints, is it's the store participation promos. Now, obviously, if you don't play the store tournaments and everything, it might be hard for you to get those, but I don't think we've seen a single store tournament promo be necessarily good pyramid mod, and that's like that only came up like maybe one time. Like, pyramid mod hasn't been a good deck since. So part of me thinks what maybe Bandai should do is kind of keep doing what this LM is. It's like $45 for, I think it's $45. Maybe it's 30.
Yeah, it was like 40, 45.
Yeah, like for 6 packs and everything, like it should maybe be 35, honestly, for 6 packs. but you get like 6 packs and everything, like an LM set, but do it the RB style. Like, I hate to keep comparing it to Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh does like a yearly Megaton. Like, hey, here's all the competitive cards from this previous year. Here's your chance to get them if you didn't have them already. Like,
yeah,
we could easily do that.
I think that's probably the best approach. Like, just have a small reprint product that just takes all of the top competitive cards from the previous year and just reprint them. I think literally waiting a whole year for some of those cards is fine. Like, Medieval Gallantmon just seems like a card that's going to be like a staple, generically good card no matter what. So, like, whether he was reprinted in December from when he was printed initially in January, I think that's perfectly fine of a wait period to reprint him. But the fact is, they know that they should reprint him. Like, they don't have to be a genius and look at the secondary market, because technically companies aren't supposed to look at the secondary market and acknowledge that. But just from player feedback and tournament data, they can see what people are playing. They can see what cards are good. They know from their designs what cards are good. They know just from internal talks, like what cards they are always looking out for in case it is a problematic card, because it is that good. Like, there's all of these different metrics that they have to know what they should reprint. And granted, this past year, they have done a better job at selecting good cards to reprint. We have had Death Exmon reprinted, even though he doesn't matter. He's still a pretty good generic card. We have had in
Shagermon and
the Shagermon and X-Antibody Protoform. The X-Antibody Protoform, this is the second reprint of that card. And it's still a expensive card. Because of where they put that reprint. Same thing with Shadramon. Yes, it's a good reprint. They knew to reprint the card. But unfortunately, where it's reprinted is part of the problem. And if it was in one of those, like, special limited sets, where you're just guaranteed the card and then have a random chance at, like, I would say have a random chance at some other good reprints. Like, nothing incredibly meta-defining. Like, I think BT13 Gallantmon would have been good, like, reprint lottery card.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the lottery card's kind of like a little bit of a...
Well, not really lottery card, just like...
good
I'm saying, like, the random chance at him. Because they always have to have a random element to their booster boxes. So it's just like, if a card like that was part of the random element, where it wasn't exactly the super playable card, but it was a good reprint nonetheless to have, I think that would be better to help alleviate some of the issues that the game's currently facing, because the price of Digimon has just gone up and up and up over the past year, and it's just made the game way less accessible, and I think that's a crying shame. And it all comes down to how often they decide to reprint certain cards to be able to make them accessible to players.
Especially if we're going to be getting more new players and everything. Players are going to say, oh, hey, what's a good deck to play and everything? Oh, it looks like this Virus Imperial is a good deck to play. Okay, how do I get those cards? Well, here's the problem, bud. Those cards are no longer in print, because after they are printed, that's it. It's kind of done and over with. So either you have to buy the, singles that are out there that can be really expensive, or, like, because what was it? Shadramon was released in EX5 as a box topper and everything. So good luck trying to find a EX5 and everything. Booster box.
Yeah, it was either BT14 or EX5. They both basically had their share of problems when it came to their promo box toppers. But yeah, like, I don't hate Bandai's approach to the design of these promos. It's just the way they've implemented promos. Yes, the way they've implemented how they do promos and where they put their promos has always been bad. You could even look at some of their other games. It's never been good. And, like, some of it is corporate greed, yes, just to try to incentivize us to buying booster boxes, which is fine, I guess. But at the end of the day, players want to play with the cards. So there's no real reason to try to gatewall them into coaxing them to making a purchase that they already aren't necessarily comfortable with just for the chance to get a card that they need for the deck they want to play. I think that's very, very bad. And we've already seen like Bandai handling reprints in various other ways. Like, hey, reprint a starter deck. Not like reprint a starter deck, but like print a starter deck with reprints in it. You started doing that, and it's great, but there's still a ton of cards that need very desperately some of these reprints. Like, some of the cards, yes, you probably don't want to reprint either right away or at all, just to try to leave some of the exclusivity on them a little bit higher, but make that on some of the less desirable decks, please, I guess. Like, I guess...
Yeah, like...
I don't know.
Here's like a deck they could easily do for... Like, let's say if they wanted to make All Force a little bit more meta competitive and everything. Like, let's say they wanted to make Ace All Force, and they wanted to introduce it in the starter deck. Well, you can easily reprint the Secret Rare Rena Tamer from BT11 in that, because it's been so long since that card's been released and just been out and everything. Like, it doesn't have a reprint, and it's a good tamer for an All Force deck.
Yeah, so, like, it doesn't even have to be, like, oh, part of the deck itself. It could be, like, the whole advanced deck thing where, here's 6 promos or 6 cards that are getting reprinted, and that just so happens to be one of them. Like, they have ways to leverage things to make it way more accessible for us, and they just actively choose not to, just because it doesn't... honestly, I think it would make them more money than they anticipate, rather than losing money. It's just like, yeah, buying a booster box that you already got your money on because the distributors and stores already bought all that stuff. Like, that's not making Bandai money. Like, if you go out and buy, let's just say, a booster box of BT14, Bandai already made their money on that set. You're not helping Bandai by buying that set, because the distributor doesn't have the ability to order more, as an example, from Bandai to be able to redistribute everywhere else. I know that's just a hyperbole example, but that's the stuff that, like, matters, because BT14's an older set, and a lot of the cards granted in that have been reprinted. A lot of cards. But still, the fact that if you were to buy BT14 and think you're helping Bandai, that's not Bandai's business model. They're, like Jay Stewart said, like, they're what you said. They're a one and done. Once they print, they sell, they're done. They move on. Because they have so many other card games that they're running at the same time that their in-house printers are probably booked. And it's really hard to add anything to the docket when it comes to printing product.
Yeah, and there's even some products that they come out with that we haven't even seen yet. Like the, remember when Liberator got introduced? They introduced that there was going to be a Liberator storage box and everything in JP. Why is it only JP? Like, how do we not have that starter deck? Like, you know, that storage box, so to say.
Yeah, and we also missed out on the Gamamon reprint starter deck, where it was just a whole bunch of cards reprinted in a starter deck. Like, they could have easily done that for, like, Examon, where it's just, hey, here's a Examon starter deck that comes with 2 secret rare Examons from BT3. Like, that would have been good.
Or even just, like, if you want to make the whole lottery thing kind of thing, you could kind of do, like, a special, like, oh, here's a little pack with a bunch of older Examon support cards with the chance to get those or something. It'd be kind of a money grab or lottery kind of thing to do. And, you know, some players would like the whole guarantees, but even just having a shot at getting it would be nice.
Yeah, and you want to know another product, while we're on the topic of, like, good products to reprint cards in? We don't have a good onboarding process. And by that, like, if anyone's, like, familiar with mobile games, like, onboarding just means gateway. So, like, we don't really have that great of a gateway to start players on. Like, we're lucky to get demo decks, because we've literally, in the 5 years that Digimon's been out, we've had 3 different demo decks. three waves of different demo decks.
Yeah,
That's
'cause
not
I
a
know
lot.
yeah, because I know one was the All Force back in BT16, I think, right? It had
It
promo
was
Ukemon in it.
it was we had the um Imperial demo deck. We have Gallantmon and Renamon demo decks. I think there was um some basic red demo deck all the way back at the start of the game. Like we realistically have not had a lot of demo decks, and that's a good opportunity to reprint some cards. So like more demo decks would be a good thing just to help with the onboarding process. And the other big thing that a lot of games have is a starter kit. We don't have a starter kit of any kind. So like a starter kit would be a good way to one, reprint some cards, and two, actually have a product that does a good job at teaching players how to play the game, start buffering and boosting their collection up. So like it doesn't necessarily have to be like two decks against each other. That's usually the idea, but part of the time they'll also include like a couple of packs or something else to really liven up the first player impressions. So that way they could start figuring out other decks to build or just have fun opening packs, looking at the different cards to teach them different mechanics. So like we don't really have a starter product for them to really get invested into. And like old returning players still buy those types of products because what Wizards of the Coast did was put exclusive cards in those exclusive promos. So older players had to buy that to get those promos. Not saying Bandai should do that, but I'm saying like if they made their reprints good, that would be incentive and enticing enough for returning players to pick up that type of a product, and then they have something to teach their buddies with outside of them just building high competitive decks and being like, yeah, so this is basically Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's not. So let me show you this combo, and it's going to take about 10-15 minutes for me to complete this one turn. And like it's not necessarily the most enticing experience to show new players.
Yeah, especially if like the power gap between like someone like starting in BT21 is going to be dramatic compared to if they had started sooner because of how good some of the older cards are and everything, and there's no way for them to get those older cards.
Yeah, like honestly, I think what they realistically should have done was they should have had each Liberator character have their own starter deck. I think that would have been the smartest thing for them to do if they were to really try to push Liberators, if they were really trying to push a good onboarding experience, because then you have a plethora of different characters you could get attached to, get their deck, get the bulk of their cards, and then buy the sets to upgrade the decks.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of what Vanguard was doing at some point, I think, right?
Vanguard usually does decks based on characters.
Yeah, like they give you a deck of a character, and then they come out with a set that supports that deck and everything.
Yeah, Bandai does this. They just do it so infrequently, it's like almost a joke. Like, just as a frame of reference, we're on starter deck 21, and we've been out twice as long as One Piece, and One Piece already has 21 starter decks as well. And they also have had, like, 3 challenger level decks as well. So, they basically have had just as many starter decks and starter products in half the time than we did. And I think that's pretty sad. And not everything needs to be new cards out of the starter decks. Like, they could go like a basic deck type route, where it's a slightly weaker starter deck, but still has good stuff, just mostly older cards and older strategies that are now getting supported. Like, I think an Examon basic deck would have been fantastic. It could have helped teach them the DNA mechanics, similarly to Imperial, but it's not Imperial. So I don't know. There's a lot that they could do.
Yeah, because one of the things I was trying to get to at earlier too was the whole ST20 and 21 for us Digimon. You know, the War Greymon and the Metal Garurumon adventure decks and everything. Part of me kind of wishes that it at least included a pack in it, kind of like how they used to back with the first 6 starter decks. Because then you would have a pack that actually is related to, hey, here's something that you could get. Oh, I got a Metal Greymon. This is a venture trait. This works perfectly with this deck. Or even getting the chance at pulling the tie too. I find, like, to me, it makes more sense that if they had included the set cards in them versus like this whole reprint of the promos that, again, like, I understand, you know, I'm one of those players that already have them. It's just not as incentive for me to grab the starter decks, so to say.
I think having some sort of bonus with a starter deck usually is the best thing to do. Bandai decided to cut the packs and just do reprints of good promos. Like, we've seen the memory boosts in starter decks. We've seen scrambles and trainings in starter decks. I think all of those are, like, great decisions. We've seen with the advanced decks, reprinted cards, like actually just reprinted cards. Granted, that selection could have just been better, but still. They generally do an okay job with the extras. I think, like, throwing in a booster pack generally wouldn't hurt, but that just adds to the dimensions that they need to think about on how big the box is going to be. But I guess with how big the box has got, that kind of just doesn't matter. Because you look at some of the box designs of these starter decks, and they went from, like, an okay size to teeny tiny to then just these jumbo monsters that are basically the size of books. And I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, and there's, like, so much room in them that they have to, like, just literally, I pulled out the starter deck with the War Greymon and I looked. It's like, wow, this is a really big box for such a small, limited 50 card unsleeved deck. That's just mostly taken out because of the cardboard shape and everything that's holding it.
Yeah, so there's room for them to do that, but generally the reason why they wouldn't do that is because it would mess with that math, which from product design standpoint does end up mattering, because shelf real estate is definitely a factor. But I don't know if there's any other, like, products per se that we realistically need outside of more demo decks, a good starter product, more starter decks, so to speak, or, like, just decks in general, like pre-constructed decks, and then, like, just reprint set.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, did they even do, like, a gift box at all last year?
They did not.
Yeah, because, like, something that would be kind of, like, I don't know how cool this would be, but, like, it'd be nice to see if they brought back, like, the gift boxes and everything, and they brought, like, some of the more popular sets throughout the year and everything. Like, oh, you get a pack of each set. Like, now that we're caught up to everybody, for example, you know, they could go, oh, like, by the time we get to December time period for the gift box set, each gift box comes with a pack of BT21, 22, 23, and pretty sure BT24 would be out by then, I want to say.
Even if it's not, just the idea of, like, here is a pack from each of the sets that came out this year. I think that, plus another opportunity to reprint cards. Like, here, plus a face reprinted promo, or a face reprinted special card. Because they did that with the O2 cards. Because the O2 promos was another hot problem, because that was a movie promo. And then it became a stored promo that was left over from what movies had. So, like, they just decided to do some really weird things to make promos as inaccessible as possible. So, them having it in a gift box was actually a good way to make the cards more accessible. So, I think, yeah, a gift box having a pack, like, probably No, I think like a single pack from each set because they up the number of sets that they print a year from 6 to 7. And then if they introduce a reprint set, then it could go from 7 to 8. Because I think like the reprint set might not be appealing to everyone, but like the fact that they could still have room to print it would be nice. So like the gift bundle could be like 7 or 8 packs, one from each set, plus some like promo set or promo card that's another reprint. I think that would be a pretty enticing product. Because if a set was ever, let's just say, short printed, like BT16, well, now that just makes the gift box a little bit more enticing to buy because, hey, you missed out on BT16? Here is a single pack of BT16. Is it the best idea in value to bank onto that pack? No. But the fact that there's more out there, because Bandai is a one and done print type thing, allows more accessible, like allows those cards to be more accessible overall. It's not by much, but something is still better than nothing.
Yeah. Plus, I would also like to see like a lot. Like most of the time, the gift boxes, most of the time have usually. Well, I shouldn't say most. I think 2 out of the 3 did come with like memory markers, so that was like nice little thing to have. And like me personally, I like those because it's a nice little figure to have of the Digimon to try to hunt down, collect, and everything. It'd be nice to see if like they could do like a villain one too, like, oh, here's all the main villains from all the series and everything, or something like the popular villains. You know, like Diaboromon or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, they could also go the greedy route and just Bandai Premium everything. Just take the Wizards of the Coast approach and just say, secret layer, buy now, buy this limited item, shipped to direct, coming 6 to 8 months after purchase, so that way it doesn't come in a reasonable time. I mean, they could do that. I really hope they don't, but that's like something they could still kind of leverage.
Yeah. I mean, another thing too, I think is like I really wish it wouldn't take like till January for them to even ship the that $200 thing and everything. Like it's like I really wish it was sooner.
Yeah, so the reason for that so the problem is the reason for that is because they, one, need to know how much they're printing, two, need to allocate the materials and resources to get to print it, 3, print, and then 4, ship. So there's a lot of different steps in that process, but they could, as we've already kind of discussed in another episode, they could expedite that by already understanding how much they would want to make, like start making stuff beforehand, so that way you could cut shipping time down because you already have a good portion of your stuff already pre-printed. But no, that's not how Bandai works, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are all different ways that Bandai could leverage reprinting cards and making the game more accessible overall. Like, granted, Digimon is still one of the more accessible TCGs on the market, like, especially as everything else is increasing in price. So it's not specifically just Digimon that's getting more expensive. Everything across the board is getting more expensive. But considering this is a hobby, it's a luxury, it's not something that's mandatory for life, like, for people to live, this would be the first thing that people start cutting back on. It's just like, cool, I can't afford the game anymore, I'm done. I've done that with multiple other games and hobbies before. It just got too expensive and I had to quit. People will just do that, and we would rather not have the game shrink, especially with all of the hype coming up for what Digimon has planned. I want to see them grow and prosper, and they have to start making these steps now so they can plan it for next year to continue to grow the game overall, which is why it's important to talk about this, because Bandai is very slow to react and they don't listen to reason half the time.
Yeah, I mean, when they do, it's always ended up being a positive thing for them too, and everything. So it's like this might be college marketing, me talking here, but it's just like if your consumers are wanting something, they're wanting to give you money, why not give them then what they want, you know?
Yeah, well, part of it is because they're a Japanese company, and Japanese companies don't like listening to any rhyme or reason. Just look at Nintendo and their current debacle for that one. They will double and triple down before they change. And that's not necessarily how the rest of the world works. But regardless, Digimon is still in a pretty good spot overall. It's just they could do a couple of things to make it better, easier, and new player friendly, and just more accessible overall. Because the more accessible a game gets, the more everyone wins. And I think like Bandai's usually pretty bad at marketing, so they got a lot of work ahead of them if they want to actually, support the game in a meaningful capacity past the bare bone basics that they generally tend to do. So, I don't know if you have any other closing thoughts. I'm pretty content here.
I mean, the only other way I could think of us getting more access to like the promos and everything is, maybe there's like some of these ideas that we have talked about, like when they come out with their surveys and everything, like, there's always something at the bottom that's like, oh, hey, is there anything else you'd like to let us know? It's like, yeah, give us better access at reprints, like try RB01 again, but make it better or something, just like letting Bandai know what our interests and wants are. Hopefully they just see the high demand for that and they go, wow, maybe we really could capitalize on this if there's such a great amount of support for this.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely fill out the surveys if you haven't. Let your voices be known so Bandai actually can think about enacting on that. They just put out a survey for BT21, so now's the perfect time to say, hey, we need a reprint set, like a good reprint set, not the shit that they've done before. So
yeah, because I'm pretty sure everyone's always been putting on the surveys lately, or in the past has been, give us an online simulator. And look, we eventually do have an online simulator now. So the more we express the interest in a better reprint promo distribution, like RB002 or something like that, the sooner Bandai could potentially act on it.
Yeah. No, good stuff. So that's all we have for this episode. I think there's a lot Bandai can do, as we've already said. A lot of potential in what other companies have done to leverage how they do reprints. Bandai's been getting better, but they actually just need to reprint cards in a meaningful capacity to make them more accessible to us overall, and that would make the game better, because then we could actually play with the cards we want. So that's all we have for this week. Thank you everyone for coming out and listening, especially all the way to the end. It means the absolute world to us, because without you, we're just two guys talking on the internet, wasting our breath. So thank you everyone, and we hope to see you all in the next episode. Later.